Alright everybody, welcome back to yet another Superdorf show, and now that's brought to you by Ship Your Reptiles. If I may take a moment for Ship Your Reptiles, guys, they have the best customer service in the reptile shipment game. You can count on that. And guess what, guys? We have a little deal for you running right now. If you use code SUPERDWARF, you will automatically get 15% off your first order with them, and guess what? It gets even better because you're going to get a boost to preferred shipping status, which is going to make you top of the line, top of the food chain. You're going to get their quality service first. Now, thank you so much to Ship Your Reptiles for sponsoring this live stream. Ship with the best with Ship Your Reptiles. And now I think it's time to bring on our host for this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, may I please introduce Garrett J. Hartle, your host for the Superdorf show. Give it up, guys. Oh, and the sunglasses, too. He's going all out for you guys.
Talking about keeping reptiles like the 90s. I happen to have some very 90s sunglasses in my very 90s car.
And actually, they pop up just like...
They are popping.
Yeah.
I figured I had to throw them on there. So, one thing we definitely did not have in the 90s was karampas. This is a pure karampa female.
What?
Pull her out. She's got a big meal in her belly, so I probably shouldn't play with her too much, but take a look at how beautiful this little snake is. I love the chaotic pattern. This is a year-old animal. Pretty small, one of the smallest, if not the smallest, Superdorf.
Yeah.
I mean,
tiny.
I think they're the smallest. But, yeah, pretty stinking neat animal. So if you guys stick around to the end of the show, we actually have to come up with a name for this girl. It's a travesty. She's a karampa. That's like elite Superdorf stuff, and she doesn't even have a name.
Wow.
Oh, little miss, no name. So it is a female. Get your naming hats on. We'll have you guys name her in the chat tonight. Whatever you guys name her is the name that goes out with her forever.
Karampa.
It was kind of funny. We actually had somebody come and pick up. This isn't something that happens very often, but they actually purchased a breeding trio of animals from us. So these are adult animals.
Yeah.
And they had been named on this live stream before. And so one thing that I thought was pretty cool is they asked me what all the names were because they wanted to keep the names and bring them across to the same thing, that's exactly what I do, except in the situation where something comes in and we already have something with that name. But anyway, they carried the names forward, which is really cool because especially with a breeding group of retics, I'm all about bloodlines. So if I want to know that this snake came from Tony, you know what I mean? And then someone else owns Tony later, you can lose that bloodline information real easy.
Yeah.
But if they say, no, this is Tony from Reach Out Reptiles, and here's all the clutches they produced, now all of a sudden they know the relatedness of the bloodlines and everything. So I always thought that was pretty cool. But all that is to say, your guys' names are very important in here. So pretty excited about that.
And they're meaningful. And I'm excited to see what you guys come up with.
Yep. Get those naming hats on, like I said.
Yeah.
So there's all kinds of crazy stuff going on. 2025 seems to be a pretty formative year in the reptile industry in general. There's a lot of new things going on. There's a lot of stuff going on with like just culturally and with our country and all this kind of stuff. And so I think it weighs on a lot of different industries. And those external forces weigh in on the reptile industry for sure. But I think a lot of the things that are happening is like an internal cycle that we're seeing go through. So there's a lot of stuff, a lot of like just the brave new world in so many different ways. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And we've been around in the reptile industry for a while. I've kept reptiles my whole life. You started your first reptile like commercial business, like making money with reptiles. When you
Crazy
were
times.
14 years old.
That's right.
You know, so
Crazy.
You've been around for a minute as well. So it's kind of cool. Like Ship Your Reptiles, the OGs. You know, there's a lot of crazy stuff going on in the reptile shipping world these days because of different changes and stuff. And I remember before Ship Your Reptiles and them setting up and paving the way for like FedEx and more recently UPS to ship live animals. Everyone, I don't know if you knew this, Jeremy. If you had a reptile shipped to you, you had to go to the airport to pick it up.
I did hear way back when.
Yeah, it's all Delta Dash. And there's certain things like that they won't do. For example, venomous snakes or won't FedEx, UPS, they won't touch that. So you don't have those shipping options. you have to go with like a Delta Dash or an airline carrier thing, and you book it as though you were like shipping your dog across the country or whatever. And that was the only option. And so hopefully we can keep it all together by learning, some lessons learned from some of these guys like Ship Your Reptiles that show us how to do it well so that we can still have those privileges, right? Moving on into the future.
Yeah.
But I think every now and then things hit a little bit of a reset.
That's kind of like the title of this. Is the reptile industry going into a reset? Who knows?
I think so.
I can see it heading that way.
Yeah. So like, I don't know. If you guys follow us on Patreon, you probably know a lot about what we're talking about. And by the way, we have a meeting after this, our after party for all of Patreon. There's a link in the description they can check out.
Oh, yeah. Link to the Patreon in the description. Check that out.
So if you jump in there, you join at any level, you get to come to that after meeting. But you guys have been around for a while. So kind of fun. We're a couple months away from hitting our 10-year anniversary. I mean, this year is our 10-year anniversary.
What month?
September.
Okay.
So in September, Reach Out Reptiles turns 10 years old.
Wow.
Now, about 8 years ago is when I started doing things like more publicly and with social media and stuff like that. And then maybe 7 years ago, I guess, I'm just estimating. Some of you guys might actually remember because some of you guys were there. We started this Patreon community for everybody behind the scenes. And we're coming up in a matter of weeks now to Retic Fest 2025, 5th annual Retic Fest, celebrating our 10-year anniversary. And it is a 1990s theme.
Boom, there it is, folks. There it is.
There it is. But, aside from that, you guys have watched us grow from putting a few things together. All of my ideas for what the reptile industry should be when it pertains to super dwarves and things were just an inkling, what my dad would say, you were just a twinkling in my eye. You know what I mean? Back then. And a lot of you guys were kind of there for that. We set certain things up. We were experimenting, trial and error, like super dwarves. How much just like retics are they? Can I keep and breed them like, for example, maybe a ball python? Or are they more like carpet pythons and boas? Or are they their own thing entirely? You know so much, and I had a lot of experience with like retics, and I bred some dwarfs and super dwarfs, but never really like refined the process, if you will.
Right.
Like standardized it.
Right.
Like this is what almost every super dwarf needs. If you do this, you're going to be able to keep a lot of them well. And it's been a lot of like trial, error, and experimentation. And then we're kind of refreshing this with the African house snakes again, right? So we kind of have our standardized systems, although it's still not complete. There's still things we're building towards, which is just, I guess, an organic matter of time, right? Because we started out in the basement of my house. And then about 4 years ago, we moved to this facility. And then we've been growing into this facility ever since. It provides us more opportunities to do things, try new stuff, to continue to try to advance our husbandry. It's like we want to define everything. Then we want to like pick out all the weak points, try a lot of new things, redefine everything, see what's worth pursuing and what's not. So doing that again with house snakes. But I think that the industry is hitting a little bit of a I guess there's a lot of people that talk about like, oh, what's the future of the reptile industry? You know what I'm saying? And a lot of times people say, oh, we're going backwards in reptile husbandry. Like, are we going forward? Are we really getting better? Or are we getting worse? And I know as humans, and especially on social media, we love to hate on ourselves and others.
Yeah,
right?
Sure.
But I don't know that that's necessarily always fair. I think it's a good thing to take a look at yourself with a critical eye and see where you can improve. But, I don't really think it's a forward or a backward. And this is going to be the topic of today's videos. I think it's a reset because if you look at, like, if you rewind in time, take with me a journey into the pre-Palmetto peak of corn snake breeding, let's say. They were the world's most popular pet snake. Right? Lots of people had them, and sure, they were a colubrid, and so people would also keep other colubrids, like if you bred mostly corn snakes and they were like your bread and butter, all these morphs and stuff, But then you might have some Honduran milk snakes and, possibly even some Asian rat snakes or something. But you had a lot of just rat snakes in general, and you kind of had it standardized for them. Then explosively onto the scene, I mean, I can remember like the first, let's see, like a lemon blast, a pastel pinstripe. You had a lemon blast.
That's the best snake. Still.
Yeah, wasn't that one of the first snakes you produced?
Yeah.
Was a lemon blast.
Yes.
So in the first lemon blast, do you remember what they were worth at the time you hatched them?
Yeah, $900.
$900. The first ones made were like 25 grand. You know what I mean? And it wasn't that many years before you started, but it was a number of years, maybe 10, 15 years before. But yeah, all of a sudden these ball pythons are on the market, and it's crazy, and there's all this stuff. Now, you don't keep a ball python hardly anything like how you keep a colubrid. There's a lot of differences and stuff, but they kind of exploded, and they're these morphs in ball pythons, and even the availability of captive bred animals, which, by the way, came with morphs. There wasn't really any incentive to have a captive bred ball python before the morphs. So the captive breds became a byproduct of morphs, right? And then there was, like less reason to have like a wild caught pet ball python. They're more shifted in time over to like dinker projects and freshening bloodlines for breeders. But you wouldn't, pay to pluck one out of the wild and do it anymore. Right. Like if you go to Petco these days, all those snakes are captive bred. It's easier to get them captive bred than wild caught. And so there was this big paradigm shift, right? And then people tried all kinds of things with the ball pythons, and then it became standardized. And then sometimes that standardization was applied to other species. So like the way you bred ball pythons, like I said, I tried breeding retics kind of in like a slightly larger ball python setup because my retics were slightly larger than the ball pythons. My Superdorf retics, obviously. And I think some people even kept, actually a lot of people kept mainland retics in little like kind of tub drawer systems and stuff that had been adapted for ball python. Then there was a reset. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And now what we see with lots of pet keepers that have ball pythons, they're experimenting again. They're going back to trial and error. They want to see more different things. So it's kind of a paradigm shift. I don't know. Have you been seeing that?
I've been seeing changes for sure. I think that, this is like, even though there is like a reset here, this is nothing new in any industry. An industry grows and evolves and changes. The reptile industry is no different. I think that with those changes, you have to be able to adapt, right? You have to be able to identify it and make, changes so that you can come out on the other side stronger.
Well, stronger, I think, is a good way to put it. Like if you look at it as like bodybuilding, for example.
Yeah.
Something I don't really know anything about, obviously. We can ask Adam Wickens about it. But what I've heard is that, to perfect your body, you go through cycles of bulking and then shredding. In other words, it's like seafood diet.
Yeah.
If I see food, I eat it, and I just pack on weight.
Yeah, that's a good
method. Then I shred out the fat, but I try to retain some of the muscle.
Right.
But then I have to bulk again, weight and fat, and then I shred out the fat. So I think every industry is like that, like bulks and shreds, and shreds.
Yeah.
So you remember a minute ago I said corn snakes pre-palmetto.
Uh-huh.
It was kind of neat because with ball pythons, the industry like bulked and shredded and eventually fine-tuned with ball pythons, we brought on professional people with marketing backgrounds like Justin Kabilka, who sort of like legitimized the marketing side of that industry, right? And with that came breeding strategies, holding back, like not releasing any males of a new morph, for example. The prices and desirability of things went up because the market size increased. That had never happened with corn snakes and stuff before then. But then palmettos came out with a little refresher in the corn snake industry. Everyone kind of missed them. Yeah. They went back to it. It's sort of like everyone's wearing 90s clothes. If you want to dress up 90s, you can literally go buy all that stuff at the mall right now.
It's so easy. It's so easy.
You couldn't do that 10 years ago because everyone was over the 90s. Now they're missing it. So anyway, the palmettos came out, and the way that, was it Don Soderbergh? You guys can correct me in the comments section. I believe Don was the the guy mainly behind that morph. But he applied some of the ball python marketing schemes and strategies to corn snakes, and it really blew corn snakes up. And they've gone through like that reset where it's like we now have decades more of bulking, new morphs, people getting a little bit more into locality stuff. I used to always complain about with corn snakes, just all the different types of people that get into it. And then they like shredded the fat and were able to like really produce in a really cool way. And it benefits breeders and keepers together. That was kind of cool. But yeah, I think we're seeing that. Like when I was a kid in the 90s, I went to a reptile show, for example. I would see species I had never heard of before. Never seen. Like, that's a thing. Like, I remember seeing my first dragon snake. Oh my goodness. Do you know what a dragon snake is?
I've never seen a dragon snake.
Yeah, it's great. You should
that
Google
sounds
one.
Crazy.
They're batty. But a dragon snake, yeah, they were really wild. And you would see stuff like that. Now, they never caught on because they're not easy to breed in captivity. So you like import one and it slowly dies, and that's sad. And nobody wants that. But that was the 90s. Like, you wanted one of everything. You wouldn't even get pairs. You're just like, I want to try having a green iguana and a spectacled caiman and a Burmese python. You would just get one of everything, and usually they were wild caught. You were lucky if you could find a young one so they could have a little bit more plasticity of the mind to adapt. And then everything went captive bred. But with everything going captive bred, we lost a lot of the unique species. And over time, now the complaint is, and I wouldn't even say now, I'd say a couple years ago, the state was, if you went to a reptile show, it was like ball pythons and crested geckos and bearded dragons, like top 5 species in captivity type of, you know what I mean? And what we're starting to see now is this creeping in of a lot of obscure new animals, which is cool and not cool. Not cool if you're grabbing a wild-caught dragon snake as a pet and watching it die in a cage. On the other hand, enough people learned through the mainstream species how to keep reptiles well to where they can take that general knowledge and apply it to new styles of keeping and new species and take those on as a challenge so that they can establish them in captivity and create a market for them. So like the Superdorf market's relatively new. There's not a lot of established breeders. Just in the time we've been here, we've seen like the rise and fall of several like quote unquote generations of breeders where someone gets in really hot and heavy. You think they're going to be there for the long haul and make a big difference. And you don't know, like these are all like, I think well-intending people. And then they, fall by the wayside or take a break or whatever, life change, get divorced, go back to school, whatever is going to happen. And, sort of all goes away. But we've seen that, people coming in and out, but a lot of them have left their little twist or brought a couple people into the industry, hopefully, if they were doing a good job, shared their love of these animals with people and got a little bit more education out there from multiple different keeping experiences, which is good. That's how we grow, is to have differences of opinion and explore through each other's experiences and test in our own to arrive at hopefully a more accurate truth, Yeah. I don't know if I explained that well.
I think we got the gist. Yeah. The hand motions really helped.
There you go. But anyway, as Superdorf keeping is getting bigger and bigger, you have the bulking where, let's say you have somebody come in from a background of, I want totally sterile environments and lots of cool morphs, right? And they're coming from that and they're adding a perspective to the keeping. And then you'll have like, I'm a pet tube keeper, you know what I mean? That puts all of my animals in, grow tent situation that takes up half my basement. And I just play with them and videotape how they react to me. You know what I'm saying?
Very different, like almost outlooks, I guess, the right word, but.
And the hard thing is, and probably as I said it, you guys can gut check yourselves on this one. If I said people keeping in sterile conditions for morphs only, and that wasn't you, you were like, yeah, I hate those people.
Right.
Or if it was you, you're like, hey, go easy. That's what I love. And then if I went the other way, you're like, hey, Yeah, I hate those people, those stinking pet tubers that think they know everything and have one snake. You know, or if it was you, you're like, yeah, that's the ultimate way to keep snakes.
yeah.
I'm better than everyone, right? But hopefully what you actually get are these two sides of the coin. These are both people that love super dwarfs. So hopefully these people can teach some things from their experience, because no one's like wholly evil or righteous in this situation. We're just learning and spending our lives with animals we love. So they have something to offer and they have something to offer. And by looking at it through a different lens, you can get to that. We bulked and brought both those people in, and then we can shred down to the core truths that they both agree on and build on that. And that's where you get advancements.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
the splash for us, the cool new thing that we're discovering and learning is African house snakes. The two species I picked, it's because I like sharing my love of reptiles with everyone. And I think these are, like, I got super dwarfs because they're my personal, like, best pet snake because of the interactivity and all the things that you do with them. I also love the colors and the morphs and the breeding and
Fun.
the fact that you can breed in 3 dimensions. I find a lot of art in that. It's like color and pattern, but also now size can be genetically and selectively bred for. There's, you know, like, I wish I could get American alligators that were 12 inches or 12 feet and have a choice.
Yeah,
you know,
that'd be
like,
awesome.
can you
That'd
imagine
be awesome. Yeah.
a 4-foot leopard gecko, perhaps? You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Wouldn't it be cool if you had all these things, you know, these opportunities? So anyways, yeah, the house snakes are like something new. So we have a couple of things that we're trying. One of them has been an idea that we've been working on for a while, but it's so large scale because it's a mainland retic cage. You guys know what I'm talking about. It's a shipping container thing that we're building for Karma. And I have a vision of it, but I've never been able to, like, you know, really share it that well. That's why we've had that skeleton of the cage sitting in there for so long so people can, like, try to envision it. But with the help of, you know, Chewy.com, thank you guys, actually donated a cage for us to try and change. And we tweaked the cage. We actually, like, blew up the roof and added a second story to it and things. But I built that cage into a miniature version of what Karma's cage is going to be. And then to test it out full force, I put a miniature version of Karma, which I have an almost exact replica. So Karma's almost as long as this. It's a 20-foot shipping container, but we expanded it in our cage to 24 feet. So she's almost that long, more than 20, less than 24. And her babies are now, they're actually, when I started building it, they were 5 feet for my 5-foot cage. Now they're like 7 in the last month.
Yeah.
Because holy smokes, mainland retics, right? But anyway, I have a miniature Karma that's about once the length of the cage, or theoretically was going to be. So they outgrew it. That we put into it kind of fully done. Even minute details, like we have a full-size, like, World War II era Jeep in that cage to be Karma's hide. And I found a G.I. Joe one that's, like, proportionately the same size to put in that enclosure.
It's so cool. It's
pretty neat.
Yeah.
And we had one of Karma's babies in there. We were feeding and interacting with her earlier. I think we have a clip.
Yeah, we got a clip. I'll pull
You guys want to see the cage? You want to see the little teaser for you? On Patreon, on the after party, we'll walk around and look at. We'll show you a couple of enclosures of experimental stuff. But I'll show you in depth on Patreon, so join.
Check out that Jeep. So yeah, that's just a little bit. You got to see the feeding there. That was kind of cool. But yeah, at the Patreon after party, we'll take a deeper dive into some of these enclosures.
Sure. Okay. So you're saying some of these enclosures. Did you say we had a comment or a question in comments or something?
Yeah. Someone
want to know what you guys think. That's why we do these lives.
Yeah.
So give us your ideas, thoughts, opinions. I'd love to hear them.
Do you know if Ship Your Reptiles ships to Canada, Ontario, Canada?
They have shipped for me to Canada. Yes. There's caveats with that. So it's something that's still, like, in development. You definitely should call them. Actually, you can call them and talk to either my wife, Ashley, who works there, or G.I. Joe, who used to work here and works there now. So Familiar, if you're part of the Retail Reptiles kind of
one
crew,
big family.
yeah, go hit them up for customer service over there and ask what the status of all that is. It's usually not, and I don't know what you're thinking, it's usually not as simple as people think because the export process can be expensive and time consuming. Cheapest exports I've ever seen, by the way, using Ship Your Reptiles in this way to ship to Canada. However, that's still way more expensive than having something shipped from across town. So like I can ship from here to California, which would be like a 4-day drive for less than $100 with Ship Your Reptiles. But for me to ship to Canada, a 4-hour drive north, because the permits and everything was like hundreds of dollars. So it's still hundreds of dollars. So if you're buying a $25 leopard gecko, you know what I mean, off of a classified platform or something in the States,
Yeah, might want to.
not gonna be worth it. But if you're like, hey, I purchase reptiles, breed reptiles, sell reptiles, want to get in on the next shipment, I'm willing to wait, it's definitely worth it. So hopefully that answered your question. You guys have any more thoughts, comments, concerns on this whole thing? Like, is the reptile industry in a time of reset? There's like a lot of stuff going on. If you think bulk trim, think about things where like, and this could be any species, right? Let's say you add a new morph and everyone's excited and they're like, morph, and every breeder gets into this morph. They all dive in, right? And then one of two things happens, right? Either the morph gets, well, it almost always gets super cheap, right?
Sure.
Because now everyone bred it and it was
Right.
exciting and new, but now it's like every single person made this year. So that thing becomes unaffordable. So the one of two things that happens are those breeders start to like stack and layer and work with this thing because they always saw it as one palette or one color and a whole palette of paints. Or they're like, gosh, that was my only idea is that one more if I got to get out now because it's worth less to sell the babies than when I bought one of one as an adult for a bunch of money and now I made 50 and people are buying one of 50, it's less money and I didn't plan for that and get out. So I think that there's a lot of that, but that's like that bulk, like we're all into it, you know? So there's always that reset and there's always like the next morph. And this is where people call things pyramid schemes and this and that and whatever. And it really doesn't work that way at all. It's just more a matter of like procuring a new trend, I guess, establishing it for everyone, which whoever does the hard work to do that, they put out a lot of risk, time, effort, sweat equity, blood, sweat, and tears, right? Then it, and so it's very expensive when they're doing it, and that's usually what their payback is, and then it becomes more common. Like this is a karampa. We just got a clutch of karampas in that we'll be selling on a waiting list. But our waiting list is like, it's taken people years to get because there's not the bulk. It's just like there's a few of these cool, rare, sort of the ultimate super dwarf, really. And there's just not enough to go around. So until everybody has them and all those people breed them, and you see a big reduction in price and increase in supply, that industry can't change too much. It's just in an establishment stage. But what if it did? And karampas were everywhere, and you could buy a karampa for $199 at Petco and have like a rat snake size, like if they sell a gopher snake or a ball python, that's the size of these as adults, right? And you could get them at any Petco. That'd be pretty sick. And
awesome.
You might, like, you know, no one wants to see, I think Petco or whatever, like big box stores come with this like negative connotation because you get like minimum wage people with lack of training caring for live animals. That's not good. But the fact that the availability was there would open up a lot of opportunity for people that, like, I like to artistically breed in those 3 dimensions. Like, let's make purple sunfire piebald super dwarfs from those karampas. Let's make this. Let's make that. And with so many people having had and loved a karampa, that means the market for all that is so much bigger for people to get in and, like I said, stack, layer, and use it as one color of many things I want to do for the future.
That's good. Really good stuff. We are almost out of time. And
we got to show, I want to show 2 more experiments. So these are our Housenake experiments. We got 2 sides of it.
Yeah.
One, you can go ahead and show them back to back, but you guys check this out. One of them is from a pet keeping side. So we're experimenting with cohabitation with house snakes. A rumor that we've heard. We want to find out what's true. We've even, guilty as charged, proliferated that rumor, but I haven't kept them myself that way. I've just repeated kind of things I've heard and stuff.
Yeah.
So we wanted to be more educated about it. So we're keeping them, one, in a naturalistic big setup. And the second thing we're doing, I think, is even more revolutionary, where we're converting the mass market popularized ball python breeding system into like a miniature naturalistic setup for small colonies of house snakes. Mm-hmm. So check out our beach scene one and then our breeding scene one. And again, we're going to dive into this with Patreon, but check out these clips.
Here's
Let me know what you guys think.
So that was that one. You saw the little house snake kind of hidden in the wall at the end there. That was kind of cool.
You just never see them. Big, beautiful, naturalistic enclosure, no more snake.
Uh-huh. And now here's that other one that we were talking about. You said you adapted a ball python breeding facility or philosophy for.
Yeah.
Right?
So the first cage is actually 6 snakes in there. Can we keep them together at all?
Yeah.
And then can we use hardware caging that's established and readily available while increasing like square footage usability and everything for a snake that's maybe more suited to that cage? It's got bioactive soil. Well, you take a look.
Pretty cool stuff there too. You actually saw them kind of together there.
Yeah, a little lovemaking going on in that cage. That's what they like to do. If you leave them to their own devices, that's what they're at all the time. Pretty fun to see. So anyway, these are experiments. We're just starting. I want to say a couple of things. First of all, one of the live stream platforms, thank you guys for joining us here on YouTube, but one live stream platform where we're able to like go mobile with this phone and run all over the place is Palm Street. It's an app. We're not sponsored by them, but we use it all the time. In fact, we're going live there tomorrow. And then we have a really big one planned. So a few weeks ago, we did 100 snakes in one live stream.
Insane.
And yeah, it was a 4-hour long live stream. We sold all 100 snakes. And it was crazy to see. Most of them were house snakes. So 100 new people got their first house snakes. And most of them just trying them out as pets. This coming Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern, we're going to go on Palm Street. And we're going to set up, these are from auctions. So first of all, I want some pets for people that want to try it. If you've never had a super dwarf, we have some exceptionally small, cute, wild type super dwarfs to set up for people as pets. Those auctions, guys, this is a super dwarf retake where everyone's like, someday I'll have enough money for them. They're going to start at $1.
Super dwarf retake starting at $1.
Super dwarf retake start at $1 on auction. We'll see where it goes. I just want to get you guys a couple of pets. I did a whole breeding. Did we put up the glitch clutch with Ashley and all that and the babies? Yeah. Okay, if you guys haven't watched that video, go back and watch the one with my wife and her favorite snakes. That whole breeding was done to make some cool pet snakes for fun. We're going to start the auctions off at $1 and see what happens. So join for that.
Crazy,
or if you're like, hey, I got a ball python rack. I want to try the same experiment Garrett's doing. You saw that crazy albino that was in that clip. I have trios. It's a brand new morph. It's called a Bushveld albino, and the Bushveld Reptiles is actually going to officially launch this morph. It's been out. People have seen it, but they're going to be like selling them now at the Pomona show in LA at the end of this month. But before they do, we have het Bushvelds that we're going to sell in trios. These are like dynasty creating. It's the bulk, like cool, awesome new morph. It's the most vibrant colored house snake you can get. It's not compatible, despite what you might hear. I've heard like misinformation out there. Not compatible with T negative or T positive albinos at all. It's a totally new thing. Anyway, we have 100% hets for this morph going up, trios that have never been released before. They're going up on Tuesday. And And then we're going to have a couple of cherry-picked, curated trios of great deals, but cool visual morphs and stuff with retics on there too. So Tuesday at 6, it's going to be the biggest one that we've done since the 100 Snake Live, because it's like all awesome, like good pet, get started or get into breeding during this kind of reset. Have some fun with it. Now is the time to jump in on the reset and start for the next bulk. You can be a part of that bulking and a part of the conversation moving forward. So that's the idea behind the live stream. So hopefully we see you guys there.
Garrett, we got 2 questions for you in the comments. And
okay,
while I'm asking those, let's have some.
We need a karampa name. What should we name this little girl? Go ahead and drop it in the comments section, and then I'll answer the question, then you can read the names off.
So from Andrew Griffin, new research shows that several morphs across species can affect aggression, mating behaviors, and brain metabolism. How do you think these studies will affect the breeding industry in the future? Will it affect it at all?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's, first of all, you never want to make a generalization that all morphs do that, but it's certainly a possibility that's there. You have mutations that are changing snakes. So what's the full impact of the change? We know certain things, for example, like jaguar retics have a propensity towards having a wobble. You know what I mean? That's something that can come along with that morph. But when the focus, this is kind of the shift when we're starting to notice, the very fact that you're asking shows to me a small sampling of this shift from what kind of color can I make? What kind of morph can I make? To the shift, what I think is happening with the reset with these species, now that they're common, they're out there. I mean, think about some of the gorgeous ball pythons you can get at a super affordable pet price that would never be available 5 years ago at those kind of costs. So you can get any color you want and bring it. And so the shift is, I want to watch natural behavior as much as I can. And I don't really care about the morph. Maybe my snake's a morph, maybe it's not, but that was never the point. And it's definitely not my concern. So that's the shift that your brain is like, so we have all these morphs, which is not a perception that we used to have. We couldn't say, so we have all these morphs. We were trying to get them. But now that you have them, what's the effect on the natural behavior and everything? Some of them have an effect, some of them don't. And I think that's something for us to learn. So again, jump in the conversation as you are tonight, be a part of that bulk and share the information you learn and continue to grow in the future. Good question. Next.
Great. And then from Greg, what time is that Palm Street Live tomorrow?
Tomorrow is going to be at 4:30 Eastern. Yep, quick and easy one. Is that Greg Bowman? Who is that?
It's Greg Bowman.
Maybe we'll throw some stuff for you to bid on in there, Greg. Yeah, 4:30 Eastern, but that one's going to be much more of like a live stream hangout. I believe we're going to do some training with our alligator, Chico, live.
Fancy.
So he's been very attacky lately. So if you want to watch some natural behaviors, tune into that one with an American alligator. That should be pretty fun. But Tuesday at 6 is going to be the big one. And Greg, I already know there's some stuff in that one that you'll be interested in. So some people are going to get some cool snakes and hopefully some really good deals. Have a lot of fun with that one on Tuesday. Okay.
All right, let's take a look at these.
What are the names? What do we got?
Folks, here we are. We have Gilly, Mosaica, Jupiter, Surf, Kiki Rumpalulu, Solstice, Fluffy, Suey, George, Smiley Face. Oh, and that's it for right now. We got one. Is anyone else? Last second chance.
What was the crocodile hunter's daughter and dog?
What?
Name?
Huh?
Is that the Suey?
Oh, it might be. It might be. Oh, and then then we got Ocean and Juju.
Ocean.
Last submissions. Oh, and Malum. Oh, and Shyla.
Yeah, I think I like Suey.
Suey.
I hope I'm not thinking of it wrong. I think that was the crocodile hunter's dog, and then he ended up naming his daughter like her middle name out. Was that Suey? Help me out, guys. Somebody knows this little bit of trivia. But Suey, that's pretty cute.
All right, are we going with Suey?
Yeah, let's go with Suey. Who was it that had that name?
Gecko Man.
Gecko Man. Congratulations. You named a karampa.
That's awesome.
And if that was not the Suey you were talking about, you're like, no, it's the pig slop or something like that.
Yeah.
Then I'll have to explain that for the rest of her life. All right, guys. Well, I enjoyed bringing up the topic of conversation. If you're not watching this live, I would still love to hear your comments and thoughts on, are we in a sort of a reset with some of these uber popular species to diversification, exploration, getting into something new, try to standardize something else? Which part of it do you want to be a part of? And yeah, for those of you guys that want to check out some of these caging and how we are trying to diversify around here and discover some new things about the two species